My name is Mary, and as I celebrated my 35th birthday on a summer day filled with the enchanting melody of birdsong, I found myself summoned to the president's office, or rather, my boss, who happened to be my mother. The heat seemed to have left her visibly bothered as she spoke curtly, turning her beautiful profile towards me. "I've decided to hand the company over to your sister. You're dismissed as of today," she declared, the brilliance of the summer sunshine making it difficult for me to fully comprehend the reality of her words. My voice must have sounded dumbfounded as I muttered, "Huh." My mother, now looking exasperated, turned her gaze toward me, reiterating, "You're fired. We don't need ugliness around here. Be gone by the end of the month." As the weight of her words sank in, I mechanically stepped back, feeling like a puppet. "Excuse me," I said, closing the door behind me. In the president's office, where only the sound of birds echoed, I mulled over her abrupt decision. However, my contemplation was interrupted when she reprimanded me. "Are you still here? Get back to your work immediately." Our company, a small 2-story building engaged in demolition business, employed about 10 people. It was a family-run enterprise, with my mother as the president, my aunt and her husband as executive directors, and my mom's cousins as managing directors. Despite the familial structure, it was evident that my mother held the majority of the power. After high school, I initially worked at an accounting firm. However, at 25, my mother insisted that I join the family business due to a supposed shortage of accountants. Over the past decade, I had taken on various roles, handling paperwork, miscellaneous tasks, and even sales when needed, essentially becoming the company's jack of all trades. Contrastingly, my younger sister, Lucy, at 32, had only been with the company for 2 years. Prior to that, she hopped between jobs, deeming none suitable for her. My mother eventually hired Lucy as an executive director when her employment prospects dwindled after she turned 30. The disparity in treatment between Lucy and me was evident to everyone in the company. However, I had long accepted that my mother had always favored my sister, dating back to our childhood. Lucy received all the attention, with my mother showering her with clothes and toys, while I received hand-me-downs, being told they were good enough for me. Despite not understanding the reason behind this treatment as a child, I diligently worked hard to gain my mother's attention by excelling in my studies and assisting around the house. Despite my efforts, my mother paid little attention to me. Even when I handed her a report with straight A's, she would merely glance at it. At one point, I even contemplated plastic surgery, thinking that my lack of physical attractiveness might be the reason for her indifference. It was my aunt, my mother's younger sister, who shed light on the situation. Back in high school, I was told that my father had passed away. However, the truth was revealed. During the year Lucy was born, my father had left my mother for a woman from his workplace. This woman, older and supposedly less attractive than my mother, apparently exuded an aura similar to mine. My aunt, casually commenting on the situation, mentioned, "Your mom is a proud woman." I bet she couldn't bear the thought of losing her husband to an older woman less attractive than herself. There was a distinct air of satisfaction in her tone, as if she took delight in my mother's predicament. It's worth noting that my aunt's appearance leaned more towards my side of the family and wasn't particularly remarkable. But she excelled at her job, mostly using her charm to advance. She continued, "Your mother took over the family business at the age of 32 when your father left her. Her striking beauty played a significant role in attracting and retaining numerous clients, which greatly boosted the business's performance. Part of this growth was attributed to the era, with many buildings requiring demolition after reaching their lifespan. As a result, neither my aunt's family nor my cousins could go against my mother. Recently, the cost of industrial waste disposal and transportation had increased, making it challenging to maintain a balance between demolition costs and actual expenses. Not only our company, but the entire industry was underperforming. Meeting the monthly payroll for employees became a struggle during these challenging times. In the midst of this, my younger sister joined the company as an executive director. I found myself contemplating how my mother intended to cover my sister's salary. When I raised the concern, my mother bluntly stated, "We'll cut your salary to pay hers. We're family, that's natural, isn't it?" Despite presenting a reasonable argument that even with a cut, my salary wouldn't be enough for an executive director, my mother remained relentless, insisting it was my responsibility to figure it out. Tentatively, I suggested that Lucy could start as a regular employee. But my mother shot me a fierce glare, rebuking me with, "Who do you think you're talking to? This isn't something for someone like you to interfere with." During that time, we all lived under the same roof. Lucy contributed nothing to the household, while I consistently contributed $1,500 every month. Even when Lucy joined our company, she didn't contribute financially to the house. Since I was young, I had been helping with household chores for my busy mother, naturally taking on responsibilities. In contrast, Lucy did nothing, behaving as if it were the norm. Lucy would casually ask, "Hey sis, is dinner ready yet?" Even when I was working overtime. When I suggested she make something for herself, she replied, "What? I don't know what to make. The kitchen is your sanctuary, right? I don't want to get scolded for using it without permission. You got mad at me for that before." Using that past incident as an excuse, Lucy never attempted to cook, clean up after herself, or put things back where they belonged. It became apparent that she was holding a grudge, using it as an excuse to avoid any form of responsibility or contribution. Reluctantly, I'd often found myself coming home to prepare dinner and then heading back to the office to continue working. My mother, too, seldom cooked dinner. Even when I took the initiative to prepare meals, she would often choose to eat out, opting for whatever suited her cravings. However, with my mother frequently attending business meals with Lucy, the need for me to cook dinner had diminished. Unfortunately, the increase in entertainment expenses was now causing a new headache. At 63, my mother began complaining more about various aches and pains, exacerbated by her heavy drinking. It was during this time that I was called into the CEO's office and informed, "I'm handing the company over to Lucy. You, who are not as attractive, are fired." While I could understand the decision to pass the company to Lucy based on my mother's past actions, given that Lucy was 32, the same age my mother was when she became the CEO, I couldn't accept being terminated due to my appearance. Even if my salary was redirected to Lucy, I failed to see the merit in it. Seeking guidance, I consulted my aunt, only to discover that news of Lucy becoming the CEO had already spread among the employees. However, the news of my termination was a surprise to my aunt as well. After pondering for a bit, my aunt revealed that Lucy had been expressing dissatisfaction behind the scenes. Lucy didn't like the fact that even if she declared she would handle something at the company, everyone assumed it was okay because they could always ask me for help. Perhaps, my aunt suggested, that was part of the reason. However, I argued that people only stopped asking Lucy because she consistently delivered sloppy work. Lucy was notably incompetent, missing deadlines, making mistakes on the phone, and committing numerous typographical errors. Despite having some working experience, she seemed oblivious to her lack of ability, possibly because her beauty had always led men to cover up for her mistakes. Acknowledging this point, my aunt remarked, "That's true, but I think she sees you as a nuisance." Continuing, she lamented, "I never thought they would fire you. Without you, the company won't be able to function." Despite her evident concern, my aunt refrained from confronting my mother, knowing that it would be an unwinnable battle. I couldn't shake off the disgust of being blood-related to such an utterly unreliable family. Basically, I'm hated by both my mother and my sister, right? I expressed in a dark voice. Unsure of what to say, my aunt responded, "Well, my sister is indeed terrible, but don't you think you'd be better off working somewhere else? Given all the skills you have, it's a waste to stay here." She suggested that I quit, and in her eyes, a faintly kind light of kinship glowed. Standing in the car bathed in the red glow of the summer twilight, I stared blankly at the distant mirage and felt a sense of release. Maybe it's okay, I thought. Turning to my aunt, I said with a broad smile, "You're right." It was the first time since I joined the company that I'd smiled so refreshingly. My aunt, a little puzzled by my sudden change, returned a somewhat sorrowful smile. In the following days, I busied myself creating handover documents and sorting out files to ensure a smooth transition. The end of the month, the date of my resignation, came in the blink of an eye. When I went to the CEO's office on time, the sound of birds was no longer audible. My mother and sister were happily chatting about unrelated matters. "That sales guy definitely has a thing for you," my sister remarked. Unnoticed, I cleared my throat, and when they finally turned around, my sister looked at me curiously, saying, "What's up?" "If it's about dinner tonight, we don't need it." With a sense of finality, I replied, "I'm resigning today. Thank you for everything." My sister, seemingly unfazed, laughed again, and I felt refreshed, knowing I wouldn't have to see their faces anymore. "I'm also moving out of the house, so please take care of yourselves," I told my mother as I closed the door of the company I had been at for so long. Her response was mechanical, a cold, "Okay, good work," with an emotionless face. From inside the office, I heard my sister's voice saying, "Now we won't have to see that annoying face anymore." In my heart, I muttered, "Just you watch," and left the premises. A week later, after finishing paperwork for a certain school, I checked my phone and noticed 14 missed calls from my mother in just 2 hours. I didn't return the call, having a bad feeling about it, and put my phone on silent as I went home. The missed calls from my mother kept increasing, reaching a total of 80 the next morning, with the last call placed after 2 a.m. I didn't consider calling her back. To me, she was now nothing more than a stranger. I had no desire whatsoever to hear her voice, fearing that I might find myself obeying her words, as I had been under her control for 35 long years. Ignoring her persistent calls, I aimed to break free from her spell. Though I could have blocked her calls, I thought they might serve as evidence of her actions if something happened. While I was receiving nearly 100 calls daily, I initially hated even looking at the incoming calls. Gradually, I got used to it, feeling a sense of satisfaction imagining my mother's face struggling with each unanswered call. A year passed in this manner, and the calls from my mother eventually ceased. I was in a state where I had no clue about what was happening with her. Throughout this year, I worked part-time while attending an online school for tax professionals. I successfully passed the exams and recently secured a job at a leading tax consultancy firm. Practical experience and various tasks at my mother's company provided me with the ability to see the bigger picture, proving to be a great asset in my new role. I felt thankful for the hard work I had put in over the past decade. The people at my workplace were wonderful, and we collaborated to get the job done, a huge contrast from the isolation and mistreatment I experienced before. Leading a fulfilling life, I happened to visit a client near my mother's company. Passing by, I noticed the windows and entrance were conspicuously dirty, and the indoor plants I had once cared for were now withered. On my way back, I unexpectedly ran into my mother coming out of her company. Expecting berattment, I instinctively covered my face with my bag. To my surprise, my mother approached me in a sweet, cajoling tone, asking where I had been. Feeling an uncomfortable shiver, I instinctively shrank back. "I've called you so many times, you know. Did you change your smartphone?" It seemed she hadn't even considered the possibility that I might not want to contact her because I despised her. I couldn't help but wonder about her thought process, given all the things she had done to me. Ignoring my baffled expression, my mother continued, "Oh, but it's a good thing I saw you. Look at the state of this company. It's dreadful, isn't it? You can start working from tomorrow. I'm not angry. I forgive you for leaving a year ago. Please start coming to work from tomorrow." It took me a few seconds to comprehend what my mother had just said. In her mind, was there only an image of a little me crying and adoring her? Mom, I'm already working at another company, and I'm happy there," I hesitantly responded. Her face contorted into something monstrous, and she bellowed, "What? You're telling me you're working somewhere else while our company is in trouble?" I don't give a damn about other companies. You're mine, understand? Causing a scene in the middle of the street. Wait a minute. You're the one who fired me, remember? What about Lucy? What happened to her? In response, when Mother snorted and dismissively said, "Oh, Lucy, I thought she'd be more useful, but she was caught having affairs with 3 men from our key client. Needless to say, our dealings with them ended in a flash. If she was careful enough not to get caught, it would have been all right. So, I kept her from the front office and made her do clerical work. But she couldn't even clean properly and was absolutely no good at accounting. Because of her, we couldn't even afford to hire someone else." After venting her frustrations, my mother turned to me with a grin, saying, "That's why it's your turn, Mary. Ever since you left, the office has been in shambles. I need you to take responsibility." I had properly created a handover manual before I left and had explained everything to Lucy. Lucy probably hadn't even looked at the handover document I made, and I was sure my mother hadn't heard anything about it either. In fact, I didn't understand why they would fire me and then ask me to take responsibility. This was always how these women acted, taking a tough stance, blaming others, and letting others clean up their mess. It was their usual trick. I bit my lower lip, thought of the kind faces of the people I was currently working with, and swore to myself that this was the real world I had been living in. A crazy world until now, but I wouldn't lose to this pressure anymore. It was you, the boss, who fired me, isn't it? My mother seemed a bit startled by the change in my tone. And the reason you fired me was because I'm ugly, right? Before I knew it, a crowd had gathered around us, apparently intrigued by our argument. While mindful of the eyes around her, my mother stuttered. "Did I say something like that? Are you sure you didn't mishear?" "No, I heard it very clearly. You're going to hand over the company to my beautiful sister and fire me, the ugly one. I didn't understand what you meant. I've been working my butt off at the company for 10 years, but you suddenly decided to hand over the company to my sister, who barely does any work after just 2 years. I question your judgment." As I explained this clearly, the crowd began to stir. "Really? Can that happen? That's awful, isn't it? Is she her own mother? Are they 2 related by blood?" Some people even started filming us, and I was so angry I didn't care about that. My mother started sweating and turning pale under the collective glares of blame from around her. She started to panic. "Mary, you're misunderstanding. Let's go inside for now." "Misunderstanding? What am I misunderstanding? If you didn't say such a thing, shouldn't you be able to clearly say it wasn't like that?" When my mother fell silent, the people around us started to say, "Oh, she's silent, so it's true. That's unbelievable." Then something seemed to snap in my mother. She started shouting, "Shut up. It's all your fault for being ugly and gloomy. Ugly people should know their place and obediently do what beautiful people say. That's all you're good for." People around us were taken aback by her outrageous behavior and began to upload their videos quickly. The thumbnail headlines were like that: "The ugly woman obeys the beautiful woman." The video went viral. To my mother's clients, she was soon told to cease all transactions with all companies. It seems that in the year after I left the company, they were engaged in a lot of shady activities, like fraudulent registration and tampering with the accounting books. So when the video spread, everyone seemed happy to distance themselves. Naturally, the company went bankrupt, and my mother and sister, who had lost their source of income, came to my apartment. But of course, I didn't open the door. In the end, they moved to a 45-year-old apartment with no bath, living in fear of their creditors, working part-time. Because my sister always tried to take it easy by flirting with the male employees due to her beauty, she was disliked by her fellow part-timers and had to change her part-time job frequently. As for my mom, everyone knew about the video that had spread on the internet, and she was being distanced by her part-time work colleagues. It seems she's just silently working by herself. Meanwhile, I found a boyfriend at my new workplace. He's not handsome, but he told me he likes me because I work very seriously and sincerely. We're planning to get married soon. I'm spending my days feeling truly glad that I've been diligent all this time.